This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance! Play down the left and Moy stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. 1-2 wicket from there. Here's Moy, right-footed. 1-0 Huddersfield Town. Lindelof misses his header. De Quattro's in. Round De Gea. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. Here's Zanka to turn it into the pass. Yes! And Tommins scored. Tommins has scored one of the most important goals of Huddersfield Town's history. De Quattro's forward. De Quattro's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Quattro scores. Laurent De Quattro scores.
The high-flying Swans are on the horizon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the warm-up episode 19. Joining me, your host, Brady Frost, who is winging it as per, is Tadcaster Albion manager, the unflappable Paul Quinn. How are you, Paul?
Also winging it tonight, I think. But yeah, no, good, thank you. Good. Thanks for having me on again.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. So it's just us two. Lucky us, eh? Get to spend an evening with me doing a podcast. Oh.
Bit of quality time.
Absolutely. But I tell you what, I think unfortunately isn't going to be a quality time. Do you like that segue, man? That was a good segue.
Like that. We rehearsed that, didn't we?
Yeah. Give them the secrets away. So we're playing Swansea. They're third in the table, 56 points, 33 more points than us. So actually double what we've got. They are top of the form table, 5 wins in the last 6. They drew that, and that's the game they didn't win was draw against Brentford. So it's not looking good, mate, especially in the form that we're on at the moment. But what I would say to remember, cast time back to earlier in the season when we played these guys, we won 2-1, and I was chatting to the Swansea fan, which we'll hear from later. We're the only team to win at Swansea this season. So maybe it's a good omen. What about you, mate? What did you think of that game, and how do you think Town have been playing recently?
I'm just looking at the team from the game. Interesting how we set up there with Stearman, Schindler, and Sarr all starting in the team with more of like a 2 up top, which I'll come on to later. I think could be a shout for Saturday again. But yeah, obviously we've got to take confidence from that with the fact that we went to their place and turned them over. So I'm sure that'll be something that'll be discussed this week, hopefully. But yeah, it's a massive game, isn't it? I just feel like these games are getting a little bit bigger now for us. And probably about a month ago, I think when I was on, I said that I couldn't see us getting dragged into anything. And all of a sudden, we are being dragged into something else. So, hopefully we can take some confidence from the fact we've turned them over already. But as you said, they're in a rich vein of form, aren't they? And interestingly enough, though, you look at the goal scoring, and this is probably where in lies our problem at the moment, is I think they've scored a similar amount of goals to us, but I think they've only conceded 15, whereas we've conceded, I think, 40. And that tells its tale, doesn't it, really, in terms of perhaps there's probably not that much between the two teams, in terms of the level they're at, but in terms of the league standing, it tells its own story, doesn't it? So,
no, definitely. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. And I think what's kind of impressed me, I mean, I'll admit it's not like I've watched all of Swansea's games this season, but from what I have seen and from chatting to fans, they have been really impressive defensively. Not particularly great to watch, even though you'd think with some of the players they have that they would be great to watch. But yeah, like you say, that defence is why they're up there. Cabango, I'm sure we'll come on to key players, but Cabango and Mark Gahey through the centre backs really impressed me. Connor Roberts got great wing backs like we do. So it is really about that defence, like you say. So I think it's going to be a bit of a tough game, really. But I was going to ask actually before we kind of come on to Swansea, because obviously it's not very often we have a manager on here. Just with Town at the moment, I don't know if anything's happened to you similar with Tadcaster. What if you're boss in that? If you're Corberán in this situation, what's it like when you're going for a bit of a bad patch?
Any defeat for a manager's awful to take. I'm sure he's having lots of sleepless nights over it. And, when you're winning games, it's all rosy and you can almost do what you want. People buy into it. I think when you're not winning games, it's really difficult not to stick to what you believe in and not to be too knee-jerk. And I think one thing that we'll get with Carlos is I think he has got a clear philosophy. We've spoke about this before, and I don't think he'll come too far away from it. And there are a lot of mitigating circumstances for him, aren't there, in terms of injuries, recruitment, all sorts of things you could point to. But as he keeps saying in his interviews, which I've been watching closely, that the responsibility of the results lie with him, and he's obviously wanted to take that pressure away from the players. But yeah, it's tough, and I don't think people even I know the level I'm working at isn't comparable with Huddersfield. Hopefully, I can close that gap in the future. But it affects you, it impacts you. It does. When your club ain't doing well and your team ain't doing well in terms of results, it affects you. It affects your family life. It affects everything. And the only thing you can do is just try and work harder and stick to what you believe in, stick to principle, and also believe that it will turn, because it will. You feel sometimes, where's your next win coming from? Where's your next win coming from? But the next win will come. It's just a case of when, and keeping level-headed, keeping your feet on the ground, and keeping working hard, and listening to the players, keeping that dialogue open. And it's tough. It's a tough game, isn't it? And based on results, and people's livelihoods are on the line as well, and that's a factor. So yeah, it's difficult, but I'm sure he'll be keeping strong in terms of his principles and what he wants to do. But I do think I just have a gut feeling that there will be a change on Saturday in terms of maybe the system, or not the system in terms of the way we play, but in terms of maybe going with two up top, or maybe a different dynamic in midfield. I think this could be the moment where he does that again, potentially.
No, I think that's interesting. I mean, we saw in the I know we're kind of a preview podcast, but we saw he did change things up against Borough. Brought on those young lads who Rowan, Phillips, who I thought actually played quite well and did make a difference. I suppose what I was going to ask you, Quinn, I'm going a bit off script here, but on the live pod we did the other day, I heard the lads saying, is Corberán a bit under pressure, obviously given after Wickham, as in starting to doubt him. Obviously you're a fan, so what's your kind of opinion on him? Do you still think he's the right man and he can turn it around?
Yeah, I think under current circumstances, who we're going to get to come in and and whatever we want from it, who do we want as a club? And are we going to be that club that keeps changing and swapping all the time? And I don't believe that's the right way. I think if you look at any really, really successful clubs, they've had some sustainability and continuity. So, you can take the biggest example of Man United with Ferguson, who was there 20 odd years. We'll probably won't see that again. But then you look at someone like Wickham and people say, yeah, but the bottom of the league. Yeah, but hang on a minute. 10 years ago, they were a non-league side and they're punching well above the weight, and they've stuck with Ainsworth. I think Ainsworth's been there 9 years. You look at someone like Harrogate Town, Simon Weaver's been there nearly 10 years now. He's probably one of the longest serving managers. Look how far they've come. And yes, sometimes you have to change things and you need to change things up, but I do believe that swapping and changing all the time doesn't do anybody any good. And I think obviously he needs the players to be able to do what he wants to do. And I do think he is a young manager, and he's obviously learning alongside trying to impart his philosophy as well. But as long as the players are buying into it and believing what's happening, which I think they do, listening to things and looking from the outside in. But yeah, it's just tough little patch, isn't it? But I think we'll get through it and I think we'll be all right. But that's probably just the optimist in me. No, I know a lot of Town fans would disagree with me, but it's difficult, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think... some people think I'm a bit more optimistic than some of the others, but I suppose the only positive I can say is the second half against Borough. Maybe that was Borough, but I just get the sneaky feeling that if we get a win, I really wouldn't be surprised if we go on a little bit of a run. I'm not going to say we're going to win like 10 in a row, but if we get 3 wins in the next 7 or something, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think we just need need something to go our way. But we'll see. We'll come on to the Swansea game, which unfortunately I don't think will be the game. But who knows? Strange things have happened. Your key player for Swansea, they've got a lot of talented players. I really like them as a side. But who have you picked, Quinny, for Swansea to keep an eye on?
Well, I mean, the obvious ones would be the two goal scorers. The two highest goal scorers, Ayew and Lowe. But having said that, looking at their recent record, I wouldn't say they're in a massively rich vein of form in terms of, where they're at. I'm just looking at the stats now. They've been sporadic, haven't they, over the last few games? But you probably would have to point to them too. And then you look at some of the experience they've got in the side as well, with like Sir Conor Hourihane and, other players in that ilk. It's going to be a difficult task, isn't it? No two ways about it. But yeah, I think you'd point to the goal scorers initially. It's going to be another tough game, especially, it's like the two opposites, isn't it? We're sort of in that moment where, got to sound like a bloody continental manager now, in that moment, we're in that patch where...
I like it, mate. Carry on.
We're in that patch where we're on a down and we're struggling, and then you look at Swansea, third in the league, no defeats in 6. It's like, it's almost set up for a town win. You know what I mean? It's like, this is when nobody expects anything to happen. That's why football, I think, is so fascinating, because any betting person on Saturday would stake on Swansea, wouldn't they? There'd be a given, but there's always that possibility we can get the win. And what a win it'd be! Like you said, though, it'd be a massive. Could beat Swansea on Saturday. What a boost that'd be to the squad and the players and everything. And then, like you said, something like that could be the catalyst to go on a run. But we need some points, don't we? We do just need to get some points on the board just to steer off that risk of getting dragged into an absolute dogfight.
No, definitely. And, who knows? Like you say, it's typical town. I mean, weirdly, again, maybe this is just me trying to be positive, but I'm kind of getting a bit of vibe about when we played West Brom last season, where we needed to win, but no one was expecting it, and we were looking at Millwall and then pulled something off. Sorry, that doesn't sound great. But anyway, I think, who knows? I think what was quite interesting to me is when I spoke to the Swansea fan, which we'll hear, they don't actually score that many. Like you touch on, you touch on the strikers aren't really in a rich fan of form, but it's just that defence. But interestingly, I think they, in quite a lot of games, they don't tend to go behind, and behind early. And what we've seen is we actually can do that. So I would be interested to see. Obviously, been ahead twice in the last 2 games, but it might be a bit of a challenge for Swansea if we did suddenly get a goal in the first 10 minutes. Might make it a bit more of an interesting game.
Yeah, and we started really well, didn't we, in Middlesbrough, and could have been further ahead, and then it's just that, I suppose, there's that little bit of a question mark over us at the moment when we do concede or we do go behind. Like the reaction seems to take a little bit of time, doesn't it, till it happens. And the game, like, thankfully, we've stayed in the game, but I felt like at half time, I had a taken 2-1 at half time, because I thought for 30 minutes in that first half, I thought we just got it was just attack after attack, corner after corner, wasn't it? And we just pinned in. And then, like you said, second half, we seemed to find our feet again. A couple of changes at half time, which probably helped. And I thought we were really good. I thought, in fact, on reflection of the whole game, I think we were lucky not to get something from it. In terms of the way we played second half, and I think we deserve something from it. Chances, like some of the chances we had, Phillips at the post and Fraser Campbell's chance, Cosy, all of that water. We could have easily got a point from that game, easily.
No, completely agree with you. I think, just to bring it back to Swansea, you touched on him, but I've picked Hourihane as my player. I've always really liked him. I thought he was great at Barnsley. Again, I can't remember when he was at Barnsley, but he's always a player I would have loved at Town, because, again, before this season, but I never felt we had a good set piece and scored, free kicks until in Benza this season. So I think he's come in and started like a house on fire for Swansea. He's coming from Villa as well, so I think he'll be key to watch out. But I'm liking this, Quinn. You're making me feel more positive. So keep that positivity going. Who's your key player for Town in this game?
I'm gonna go for, because I feel that he deserves a start. I'm going to go for Phillips if he starts, because I think we've seen flashes of it. In fact, I've even said 3 or 4 weeks ago when we did the podcast, I think I gave him a shout for a start then, and I'm still beating the drum about him. I think with what we've got available, he needs to start. So if he starts, I think he could be a key player for us. If he doesn't, I think there's going to be some pressure on Bakuna to really pull in a performance, especially if Mbenza, which I presume is not fit, won't be fit. I think there's massive pressure on his shoulders in a good way, in a positive way, to pull out a real solid, creative performance for us. So if Phillips starts, it'd be him. If he doesn't, then I'd say Bakuna needs to step up and put in a big performance for us.
I think that's a good shout. I was really, I think we were talking before we recorded. I was really impressed with Phillips. You know, I think almost so impressed to the point I was like, well, why has he not been given a shout earlier on? So I think that's a good call. I've actually gone for Hogg because since he's obviously he gave away that penalty at Wickham. Since he's come back, we've not seen the best of him so far. But I think he'd be a busy boy in this game. But also, before his injury, before his like kind of recurring hip thing, I think he'd probably say he's been our best player this season. Or you could certainly make the case. And I think we'll need him to be on it. And to be honest, he's the kind of player back, like you say, when you're in a bad run, he's gonna give it his all, and sometimes that can go the wrong way. But I just feel like if anyone's going to get up in their faces and give Swansea a bit of a tough game, it's Hogg. So I hope he can kind of set the example for that. But we will see, mate. But we'll move on to return to the Mac. I'm going to again go to you first because you've got an interesting way of doing this week. So I think our listeners will enjoy. So,
right, I've got no idea who I'm going to pick this week. A, because I'm underprepared, and B, because I completely forgot. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to pick me a number 1 to 24, and we're going to randomly select a former Huddersfield Town player, courtesy of Wikipedia, that is going to make his return to the Mac. So 1 to 24. Go on.
All right, sorry, I thought you were going
1 to 24.
So 1 to 24, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
14.
14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, you don't count.
14. Right, okay. And then 1 to 200. In fact, just say stop just say stop when you're ready.
Right, stop.
Okay. The player that we are going to return to the Mac is Sean Scannell.
Right.
Sean Scannell is the player we're going to return to
Make your case.
So the reason we're going to return Sean to the Mac is because he's an experienced player now. He's 30 years old. He's 5'9", 1.75 meters tall. He was born in Croydon. He's made numerous appearances for the Republic of Ireland junior sides, and I feel he could make a massive impact for the team. He's also got a brother called Damien, which I think would be useful in this game.
Lovely, mate. You are wicked it. You're right. It's gone. Sean Scannell's a bit of an interesting one. I don't know. What did you think of his time at Town?
A lot of ability, and I think he came in and if he's reflecting back, I think probably he could have done more, but I think he was one of those players where he was a threat, wasn't he? He was a threat when he was on it, but was he on it enough? Maybe not. Would be an assessment.
No, I think that's interesting. The only thing I can say about Sean Scannell is I once got I think it was one of the first Ubers you could get in Huddersfield, and the guy claimed to me that he used to chauffeur Sean Scannell around. And I was kind of like, well, I didn't say this to him because it would be really rude, but I was kind of like, but yeah, you're taking me to bloody, the parish or whatever. Sean Scannell's driver, but yeah, here you are taking me and my friends who are half cut into town. So I like it. I like Sean's. To be honest, mate, I like what you did there with the little routine. I might have to bring that in. I've gone for really boring. He's been mentioned on the pod before, but To be fair, listeners, like we're having to do one every 3 days at the moment, so I can't remember players who've been decent. So I've just gone for Carlin Grant because we really missed Karoma. Obviously, he plays on the left wing, and we were absolutely torrid at times last season, and he'd just score out of nowhere. I think that Wigan game, where we were dire for quite a bit of it, and then he just pops up and smashes it in the corner. So don't really need to explain it. Also, not having the best time at West Brom either, which I think was quite interesting. But I imagine we might see him next season if we manage to stay up. But yeah, so I've gone Carlin Grant. So I wonder who's going to win out of Sean Scannell and Carlin Grant. We will. I'll say this now, and then they'll just fix the poll and be like, we're back Quinny. So anyway, before
are you going to put randomly selected Sean Scannell?
I might no. What I might do is I might
create some intrigue to actually see what the process was.
Yeah, I might I bet there's a YouTube compilation of Sean Scannell where he looks like Messi. I'll just attach that underneath so to help your case, mate. Anyway, so before we go on to You're the Coach, I caught up with Stephen from the Swansea podcast, the Tadcaster, to see if we can get anything from this game. And here's what he had to say. Cool. I'm joined on the line now by Steve from the Swansea fan podcast, the Tadcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all right. To say we've not won this year, but cheers for coming on. So we've got the game at the weekend. Before we get on to that, the previous game, obviously at the Liberty Stadium, was probably one of our best games of the season. We managed to win 2-1. So I was going to kind of ask, really, obviously that's me from my Huddersfield perspective, but what did you make of Huddersfield in that game?
I got to be honest, a lot of the games sort of merge into one because they come so thick and fast and everything like that. My memories of that game are not huge. I vaguely remember our goal being a penalty, I think. But I thought Huddersfield were like a reasonable side. I think I've seen far worse than them this season, I would say. I thought it was a game maybe we were a little bit unlucky to lose, but it happens sometimes. I think we've been quite fortunate to win some of the games that we've won, last night being a good example. So, I think obviously from your point of view, it was a good result. I think Huddersfield have been a bit of a bogey in my time as a fan. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you were the only team that have won at the Liberty this season. So, yeah, I think Saturday should be quite interesting.
Yeah, interesting. I think, again, you guys are in great form. I suppose I just wanted to talk to you about how you think the season's going. Did you expect this? Because, from the outside perspective, Steve Cooper's done an amazing job, really, since he's come in. Did you expect to be kind of pushing for promotion?
No. I thought this season, the expectation from my point of view was top half. Obviously, we lost a few players that had done well, that had got us into the playoffs last year, Ian Brewster being one of them. And you're thinking, where are the goals going to come from? I wouldn't really say we've replaced that, but what we have done is become incredibly good defensively. I think we've kept 16 clean sheets, which is unbelievable, really, in 28 games. So, that's what our success has been built off. If you look at our game with Nottingham Forest last night, we didn't really have much of an effort at goal at the game. We've kept it tight, as we've done in so many. And then we've nicked the goal, and to be honest, it was a bit of a daylight robbery. So that seems to be the main thing with us. We're quite clinical with the chances we're creating. This is not a Swansea team that sort of dominates possession and creates a lot of chances, like we've probably seen, over the last decade or so. Not necessarily all the time, but that was the general DNA of the club. Certainly, what got Swansea into the Premier League in the first place, and it's not really been like that, to be honest. It has been more built on being very good defensively. So, yeah, we're overachieving for sure. That's the one thing I would say. But obviously, if you look at the league table, we're only 1 point off the top two. So you have to say that we're in with a good chance of promotion. But nobody did really expect this at the start of the season. So Steve Cooper's done very well, to be fair, even if the football at times probably isn't as easy on the eye as I'd like.
Yeah, no, like I say, I think, from the outside perspective, it's kind of Swansea look at team to me about how I think Huddersfield should be, recruiting smartly and getting good loans in, like you say. So I suppose we'll kind of come on to the match at the weekend. What are you expecting from it? And I suppose what I'm hoping for you to say is, if you got away with it on against Forest, do Huddersfield have a chance of getting something from this game?
Yeah, I would say that you do have a chance of getting something. I think the key really is going to be if you score first, because if we score first, invariably there's one winner. I think there's only one game this season where we've scored first and we haven't won. And the only reason we didn't win that is because we were on the wrong end of a penalty decision that shouldn't have been given. So, yeah, I think that's the big thing. As when I look at like the game with Nottingham Forest, for example, you always felt we were still in it just because we've invariably nicked goals when we've kept clean sheets. But I think if we were to concede first, that would change things. So that's probably what I would say to anybody, really. But yeah, if you concede first to us, I think anyone is going to really struggle just because of how well we've done defensively. And we've been very good as well at scoring against the run of play. Like quite a few times I think we played QPR Boxing Day, very poor. When we scored on the stroke of half-time, different game, 1-2-0. Did similar at Barnsley, scored on the stroke of half-time despite not doing much. Then we've added a second in the second half. And obviously, like I said, the Forest game where we've nicked the goal late on and we've not done much in the game. So that we are very, very good at not playing that well, but still winning, or at least making sure we don't lose. So that's the key to it. You may well watch us and think this lot are not that good, but unless you've gone in front, then beware, because even though you might not think a goal's coming, somehow they seem to come. And then I think quite often the opposition are a bit frustrated, thinking, how are we losing now to this lot? But we do seem to be sort of experts at it.
I've got to be honest, mate, you're making me very worried about this, because there was a lot of alarm bells ringing for me there. For us, we concede quite a few goals on the stroke of half-time at the moment. We can score early, so I think it'd be interesting to see from a Swansea perspective. But I think we're the team in the league that's lost the most points from winning positions. So 23 points we've lost after taking the lead. So yeah, I'm not feeling positive. But I suppose we'll kind of close with this, really. What are you expecting from the game on Saturday? And what's your score prediction? I know trying to predict a score in the Championship is always a difficult task, but how do you see it going?
It's a tough one. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from Swansea in some ways, other than it's unlikely we're going to be poor defensively. I mean, there's been the odd game this season that we played Derby away, we lost 2-0, and we were absolutely shocking. But that's such an anomaly. It doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, I think we might try and go more cautious and then try and soak up pressure, maybe play on the break or something like that. But, I mean, we have gone more aggressive in some of the away games. We played Rotherham recently, and we tend to play like a 3-5-2 with wing backs. And usually it'll be three more cautious midfield players, like Conor Hourahan's come in recently. And I wouldn't say he's like a number 10, but obviously he is more of a playmaker, somebody that will make things happen. Whereas there's been the likes of Matt Grimes and Jay Fulton, they are a bit more cautious. But I think if I use the Rotherham example, Jan Dander played and he's more of a number 10. So that sort of shows that we went for it more in that game. So I think whether he plays or not might tell us how Swansea are going to approach it. If he does play, then that probably tells us we're going to go for it a bit more. Whereas if he doesn't, then it'll probably be a little bit more cautious. So that's how I'm looking at it. I personally don't think that Dander will play, but we'll see on the weekend. I mean, prediction-wise, it's difficult for me not to predict the Swansea win, really, based on we just seem to find a way. So I'm going to say 1-0, I think, to Swansea.
Right, yeah. I mean, I've had you down for a win. I'm surprised you've said one, because we've conceded the most goals in the league, I think. Or, if not, we can...
We're not the most... We've only scored 3 in one game, for example.
Right.
2-0 is quite a standard Swansea score, so that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, I'm just going with a 1-0, because as well as we're doing in the table, we're not like a Brentford, like that could stick 3 or 4. That's quite unlikely, I would say.
Well, I'd take a 1-0. Obviously, you always want to win, but I'd take that if we could get something from other games. But we will see, mate. Thank you so much for coming on anyway, and best of luck for the rest of the season after Saturday's game, of course.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Right, so we've heard from Steve and Quinny. I'm going to hear from you now. So you're the coach. I mean, you are a coach, but you're the Huddersfield Town coach for this one-off game against Swansea, mate. What is your lineup? You said you're going to tweak it, so I'm interested to hear who you're picking. Who makes your lineup? Who makes Paul Quinn's first Huddersfield Town match?
I'm going to go for a change in the midfield. So I'm going to go for a 4-4-2, but a diamond in midfield. So I'm going to play without wingers.
All right.
And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to allow my fullback.
We don't have any.
Because we don't have any. That's the first bit. And the other reason is I'm going to give Pippa and Rowe license to bomb on, get forward like they usually do, but create a bit more room for them to do that. So that's my theory behind that. Keogh and Sarr at centre half, Schofield in goal. So Schofield, Pippa, Keogh, Sarr, Rowe as a back four, presuming they're all fit. Then Hogg at the base of midfield, with Vallejo and O'Brien either side of him, so like as a bit of a three, and Bakuna at the top of it, and then Campbell and Phillips down the middle, with a bit of a job to do when we haven't got the ball. That's going to be my starting 11.
I like that a lot. I thought Rowe was pretty good against Borough, so I think you're right. I think he should get a start.
I think the thing is, for me, O'Brien just doesn't look comfortable playing there. That's the problem as well. He just does not look comfortable. No. Square pegs, round holes, isn't it? So I think, and Rowe, I thought was lively when he came on. So give him the nod. Let him have a go.
No, absolutely. I mean, he played in the Prem, didn't he? So under Jan Sievert. So yeah. So I've gone 4-2-3-1. I hate to say this, but I think Schofield's looking really shaky at the moment. But I've kept him in because you can't just chuck him out. But I do think if we keep losing and he keeps looking a bit dodgy, I mean, he got away with one against Borough. I wonder if it's worth putting this Leutwiler in because he's meant to be, professional and solid. So we'll see. But I've kept Schofield in because he's like a lad and I want him to do well. So 4-2-3-1. I've got Pippa, Keogh, Sarr, and I've got Jaden Brown because he did play in the B team game, and I think we just missed Toffolo. It's the last game before Toffolo's back. I've gone for Hogg and O'Brien in my two. I agree with you. O'Brien's not a left back, and to be honest, it's a bit of a shame with O'Brien because I just don't think he's been on it this season at all. But I'm hoping this is a game where we could see something from him because he's really good at running with the ball forward.
Yeah.
And then for my three, I've gone for. I debate about putting Bakuna in, but I still think the best we've seen him is when he's a super sub and he can come on. So I've kind of got him as that role. So I've kept Rowe in. I've got Holmes as a 10, just because I think he's quite good at linking play and we're not seeing the best of him yet. But I've also given Sorba Thomas a go, just because he's played left wing back and maybe he can swap with Brown as well. But one of the things when we signed him was he was meant to be really good at kind of set pieces, like in terms of corner delivery and stuff like that. So I wonder if it might be one of them games where we just need to nick a set piece. And also, he's doing quite well in the B team, so why not give him a start? He's knocking on the door and we're beggars can't be choosers. I think Campbell needs a rest, so I've got Phillips up front because I was impressed with him. And to be honest, if he starts and it's not working, you can bring Campbell on. And also, I think if we're being honest, no one's really expecting a win from this game. So why not? Let's just mix it up. Does that sound? What do you think? Does that
interesting? No, I like it. Yeah, I think few changes, few fresh faces, bit of hunger, bit of that sort of youthful. I think we need that. When you're in this situation as well, sometimes just making a couple of changes and bringing some people in that haven't been at the sort of sharp end of it for so long can help, just freshen things up a little bit. Interesting selection.
Well, why not? I think because we've got Derby in midweek, and I think that's a big game. So Derby have got Watford on Friday because I know, God, it feels like last season we checking over results, but Derby have got Watford on Friday. Watford are in really good form. And after Derby play us, they've got Forest. So when I was chatting to these Derby fans, they were saying we wouldn't be surprised if we make some changes in the Huddersfield game because we'll want to beat Forest because we've not beat Forest in 5 years or something. So I wonder if maybe we might have a bit more joy against Derby. So I'm kind of wondering if we should, give people a bit of a break to come on the bench. So that's my reasoning anyway. But what are you thinking of score prediction, Quinny? Because when you were last on there, you predicted a 3-1 win against Luton. I like the optimism. I mean, mate, if they were, if your optimism could be, communicated on the pitch, I think we wouldn't be in this bad run of form. But anyway, what are you thinking? How's the game going to go? And what's your score prediction?
If you're asking me as a Huddersfield Town fan, I'd never ever bet against Huddersfield Town. I'd never ever say we're going to lose because I just don't think, as a fan, as a supporter, no matter what game you go into, you should have that mentality. Because if you've got that mentality, it goes onto the pitch. I know we're not there at the moment. Trust me, it does. If you go to a game and the crowd's negative and they don't think you're going to win, I think that mentality goes onto the pitch. So I'm a big believer that if you're going to go and support your team, you're going to go and anticipate, unless you're playing somebody, ridiculous. That you look at the games of the Premier League, though. Man United at home, who would have said Huddersfield Town would have beat Man United at home. The crowd, I was at that game, fortunately. I don't go to many for obvious reasons, but I was at that game and the crowd that day were unbelievable, and probably got us over the line in a lot of aspects because of just the whole aura of the place. So what was the question?
I don't know. But I was at that game too. That and the Brighton where we beat them 3-1 when they were top of the league. They're the two best games for me in recent memory. That Man U game, like you said, crowd was something else. And you have Tommy Smith, rallying up Martial and great day. Remember the great times, listeners.
So I'm
score prediction.
Yeah, so I'm going to be realistic. I would take a 1-1 draw. I think if we can get a 1-1 draw, I would be over the moon with that. If you're asking me as a non-football person, I think it's going to be tough. And but I do think that it'll be closer than we think, especially with their goal scoring record. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game, but I think we would take a draw. But I think we could end up getting edged out again on Saturday from a non-supporters perspective.
Yeah. So I had to. Sorry, this sounds like I'm bragging about it, but I had to give a prediction for another podcast, but it was right after we lost to Borough. So I said 3-1, and then since having done my research for this and found out Swansea don't score a lot of goals, I think I was stupid to do that, to be honest. And also, like you say, mate, I'm a fraud of a fan if I pick. I think it really depends on who scores first for me. I know when we've scored first, we've still lost, and we've lost the most points from winning positions. But if we get an early goal, Swansea's defence are really good, and I wonder, again, we're not expected to win this game, and I wonder if they have to actually come out and try, if that might play into our hands. I'm not predicting a win because I just can't see it, but I kind of can. But head says, heart says, oh, maybe we could sneak something, but head says no. So I'm also going to go for a 1-1 draw. Even though I said 3-1 on the Sky podcast thing I had to do the other day. Yeah. But yeah, I think 1-1, like you say, we're not expecting anything. And let's be honest, when we're not expecting stuff, like we can surprise. That's the thing I would say about Huddersfield, and I think what's been really disappointing recently is we don't look like we can claw stuff back. But what I would say earlier in the season, Corberan and the team, they never looked like they were going to get beat. Like they never looked like they were going to give up without a fight, which we're missing recently. But we'll see. Anyway, I'm rambling, mate. So we've both gone for a draw. We will see how it goes, and who knows? We've got Derby, and like you say, I think a win's going to come off soon, mate, isn't it?
Well, if we do win on Saturday, what a game that is to go into. We could almost, if we won Saturday and beat Derby on Tuesday, we'd be breathing a big sigh of relief, wouldn't we? In terms of, you could potentially, I won't say we won't be safe, obviously, after Saturday, but after Tuesday if we did that. But if we could take 6 points from these next two games, what a few days that would be. It'd be like monumental, wouldn't it? In terms of just easing the pressure off everybody and settling everybody down again. So who knows? Fingers crossed. But this is Huddersfield Town, isn't it? So.
It's never dull, mate. It's never dull. And like you say, I mean, to be honest, Borough were only 7 points off us and they were in 9th, before on Tuesday. So this league's crazy. So who knows? Anyway, I hope we could be chatting for ages, mate. I hope we've made people feel a bit more positive about the game. And who knows? At least if we get pummeled, there's another game on Tuesday. The games are coming thick and fast. That's all I can say. Exactly. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Quinny. Really appreciate it. And
pleasure, mate. Pleasure.
No, nice one. And thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back for a preview for Derby because there's a game on Tuesday. So look forward to my sweet dulcet tones very soon. Take care. No, hang on. I don't want to end the meeting.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored, it was a heaven dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low, low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh, what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh,